Hey folks, thanks for coming out. My name's Nick Caldwell, Chief Product Officer here at Looker. Really happy to be here in Tokyo. It's my second time in the city and I'm loving it. I want to do a talk about the future of business intelligence. I'm going to tell you guys about Looker and how great the product is and so forth and so on. But really the intent of this is to give you guys a sense of not just why Looker is a great product, but also what's happening in the BI industry right now. There is a lot of change happening if you're remotely monitoring the situation, not just with Looker, but other companies in this space. And my hope is that you can walk out of here today, one, a fan of Looker, but more importantly, with a better understanding of what's happening in the BI market. My background, before becoming Chief Product Officer here at Looker, I was General Manager at Microsoft, where I was on the founding team of a product called Power BI. And then after that, I joined Reddit, which is one of the world's largest websites, and was the VP of engineering there. And I took learnings from both of those places and have applied them to the products at Looker. So with that, let's talk a little bit about Looker before we jump into the future of BI. Looker is expanding like crazy. We're having a gangbuster year. We're up to 1,700 customers. 280 million in funding from some big investors, PremG and CapG. This slide is actually a little out of date. We're up to 750 employees now, not 700, so growing really, really fast. Expanding globally. Our headquarters is in Santa Cruz, founded there 7 years ago. Also have offices in San Francisco, New York, Dublin, London, and the Tokyo office just opened in September. 1 in 5 new customers are from outside the United States, so just growing like gangbusters. Our mission at Looker is to empower people through the smarter use of data. We like to emphasize people. A traditional BI tool will probably talk more about empowering analysts. We really think that data, if harnessed correctly, can reach every single person within an organization. And the infrastructure that Looker is built on top of supports that idea. So what is Looker? Let's talk about it for a little bit. We think that we use a fundamentally different approach to BI and data in general. This is kind of our architecture slide, which describes how it all comes together. At the bottom of the slide, you can see that we can connect and load data from any source, SaaS apps, transactional DBs, and what have you. We advise landing that data into a modern, massively parallel data warehouse, a Snowflake or a BigQuery, for example. Now, on top of that, Looker will automatically try and infer schema. But you can also use a proprietary language called LookML to provide additional semantic modeling, all right? Really just collecting all your data in one place and putting a semantic layer on top of it that allows you to describe how the tables connect and your business metrics, et cetera. And then we provide an API. And this is kind of the core differentiator of Looker. With that API, you can then build any sort of data-driven experience that you might want. Now, the most common one is going to be your traditional BI exploratory tools, right? So most people think of Looker as a BI application, but we're much, much more than that. We've got embedded BI, and increasingly what we're seeing is people taking that business data and building it into operational workflows, as well as custom line of business applications. And I'm going to talk much, much more about that later in the deck and give you some examples. But I want you to remember from this slide, Looker's using a fundamentally different architectural approach, and we go far beyond traditional BI. Now, 3 differentiators to remember. The first is the LookML modeling layer. All of your business definitions are in one place, governed. Everyone has the same understanding and definition of business metrics. This is as opposed to other BI tools, which are more workbook-oriented and can result in like chaos, with many different people within an organization having different definitions of key metrics. The second, because we're built from the ground up using modern data stores, we can use a approach called transform on read, and this massively simplifies data ops. This means that data engineers are going to do less work maintaining aggregate tables, complex ETL flows, et cetera, and they'll have more time available to build applications, or even just traditional reports. They'll spend more time getting that data into the hands of their end users. And then finally, extensibility. Looker has a philosophy called 110% API coverage. That means that anything that you see in our UX, you could build yourself and more. All right? The intent of Looker is not to stop at a BI exploratory tool, but to give you an API that allows you to build an experience for any sort of purpose that might come to mind. All right, and this approach is working. There's a couple logos that we like to show off. We've got some big, gigantic accounts: Amazon, Disney, Cisco. The reason that we're successful with these logos, part of it is we work really, really closely with each customer. We're well known for customer support. We actually have a part of our company called the Department of Customer Love. But another big part of our success is that we're riding a wave of 3 really, really important trends happening in the market right now. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about. All right? So the BI market is changing, like fast. Like really big changes. There are three areas which I believe are contributing to this massive upheaval in BI. The first is simply that everyone needs to use data nowadays. It used to be the case that you talk to a BI analyst and they would talk about like citizen data scientists and empowering people with data, et cetera. I think that ship has sailed. Like pretty much everyone uses data in their job in some way, shape, or form nowadays, regardless of whether or not they're called an analyst. That's a major trend. Second, this has translated into the explosion of SaaS applications. So if you think about like what a SaaS app is, many of them are simply easier to use, easier and more intuitive interfaces on top of rows of data, right? And as opposed to people learning how to use traditional BI dashboards and reports, I think more and more what we're seeing is they're going to these purpose-built, intuitive, easy-to-use SaaS applications. And then that results in just a huge proliferation of new data silos. So the third trend, which Looker was built on from the ground up, is the use of modern, massively parallel data source. So if you're at all familiar with a BigQuery or a Snowflake, you'll know that these things are able to increasingly store more and more data, just massive amounts of data, at a bafflingly cheap price, while simultaneously allowing for increasingly fast queries. So you can have more data, don't give up any of your query speed, and pay almost nothing for the price. So these are the 3 trends that we're seeing, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into each of them. All right? So the first one, everyone needs data, everyone. All right? So this chart kind of illustrates the growth in the world's data. We pulled it from IDC white paper. It says that the world's data is approaching 175 zettabytes. This is a number that's so big I cannot even actually comprehend what it means. It doesn't really matter what it means because what really matters is the impact that this explosion of data is having on people's everyday lives. For example, we expect data when we shop, right? Nowadays, you order something on Amazon or from your favorite online retailer, you need to know down to the minute when that package is going to get to your front doorstep, maybe even the name of the delivery driver in some cases, all right? So we expect data when we shop online. Each of you in this room is carrying around a mobile device that is, whether or not you want it to or not, emitting a continuous exhaust of data about your GPS location, your health statistics. Each of you is accustomed to that, and that data is then used to make your daily lives better. Right? Even when you relax, all right? Many of you are going to go home today and watch Netflix or Hulu, and how are you going to do that? You're going to get recommendations based on your past viewing behavior. So data has become a part of our everyday personal lives, and that also translates into the workplace. Nowadays, there are many jobs completely devoted to manipulating or interpreting data. Your quantitative marketers, your growth hackers, your DevOps engineers. These jobs are entirely constructed around the idea that these people are going to be spending their time with data. And there's a good reason for that. companies who can figure out how to best leverage data are 178% more likely to grow revenue and 240% more likely to build a sustainable competitive advantage. All right, so big upside to figuring this out. And what that translates into is, data has just become the lingua franca of business. You can no longer have a business opinion without backing it up with some sort of data. Like the two go hand in hand, opinion plus data. So it doesn't stop there. It's not just business analysts making business decisions, and that's the key thing I want you guys to remember from this talk. Data can empower anyone in your company. Like this is an example I like to show. It's a company called Deliveroo. It's very similar to Uber Eats, if you've heard of that. And what you're seeing here is a pizza delivery driver using a mobile application powered by Looker to tell him what part of town to be in, all right? This is not an analyst. This is a pizza delivery driver, all right? But using analytics powered by Looker, he is able to more efficiently be in the right part of town to get his job done, all right? And that's the vision we're trying to get across. It's not just about empowering analysts. You can take business data and empower every person in your company, all right? So now, even though I've just expressed that vision, we've got to be honest. We're not reaching everyone with BI yet, and I've got some statistics to back that up as well. 69% of companies don't consider themselves data-driven, according to a New Vantage survey. And even more painfully, the majority of companies, like 66% of companies, still say they're using Excel for their BI needs, all right? So the question then is, where is that data growth happening then? Like, how can it be that there's explosion of data, yet most companies are still using BI and Excel? That brings me to the second trend I mentioned earlier. Trend number 2, the proliferation of SaaS applications, all right? So how many SaaS apps, just ask yourself this question, how many SaaS applications did you use today before you came to this keynote? I use Gmail, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Slack, Jira, Ops Genie, New Relic, Datadog. These are all SaaS applications which are pretty interfaces on top of rows of data. That is where the growth in data is happening. Right? Now, why is that? Well, if you're trying to get a specific task done, then BI dashboards just have really big competition. Like, what would you prefer to get your job done? A generic, general purpose BI dashboard, or an application specifically built to solve whatever problem you might have at hand, right? That is why SaaS apps are growing. Now, I'm not the only person that says this. Gartner agrees. This is a quote from one of their latest trends reports. Spending and focus on traditional query and reporting BI environments will shift dramatically to analytics integrated into business operations and digital solutions. A quote directly from Gartner. And you see that in other surveys as well. Looker today uses about 140 SaaS applications to run its business. And according to Netscope, the average enterprise uses more than 1,100 SaaS applications, all right? And this trend is only continuing. There'll be 500 million new places for us to get data by 2023. And the question that, if you're a BI professional or anyone who works in data engineering, you have to ask yourself is, are you really going to be able to wrangle all of that data, the increasing numbers of silos, the increasing diversity of data? How can you possibly scale to this challenge? Particularly in business, it's not going to go away. Your digital marketer wants to use Google Ads. Your sales team wants to use Salesforce. Your ticketing is going to be done through Zendesk. These are, again, unbeatable, great experiences built on top of rows of data. And that means that every department is now getting more and more siloed. Your sales team is going to have their constellation of applications that they like. Your marketing team is going to have their constellation of applications. Your finance team, all separate universes, each with their own data, potentially each with their own definition of critical business metrics. And BI 101, I will claim, is that decision-making should not be constrained by data silos, that by combining data, it gets more powerful. And more powerful data means that your company is going to be more effective. The people in your company are going to be more effective. And you can see this trend playing out in other statistics as well. This is according to a person we know at Forrester Research. It says 80% of structured data isn't analyzed. And that should come as no surprise. Traditional approaches can't keep up. And we talked to a lot of different companies about this. We have, I think, seen everything at this point at Looker. The people trying to get this explosion of data under control. I want to give you 4 examples that we know don't work. The first one, I think, I won't name the name of the company, it's kind of embarrassing, but they're using a tool to generate workbooks, right? So every morning a little script runs, they generate like a new workbook and they give that to their employees, resulting in thousands and thousands of these workbooks just proliferating across the company. Of course, no one knows if they have the right definition. If you edit the workbook, that will get then reshared. Now you've got multiple versions of the truth proliferating. The second approach we've seen at Deliveroo, instead of using workbooks, what if you gave people like a library of SQL queries and get a little bit closer to the metal, if you will? Well, that really just pushes the problem into a different place. Now you've got a lot of maybe less knowledgeable folks changing the SQL query and then redistributing that throughout the organization. So you've got SQL snippet proliferation. WeWork, this was an interesting approach. They tried to train every single person, 1,500 people in the company, to use SQL. And without going into detail, that just simply did not work. Now, a typical company, what you'll see is they'll hire an ETL team or the data engineering team, and they will try and maintain tens of thousands of lines of brittle ETL code to try and connect all of these things together. But again, if we're being honest, you cannot keep up. You can't write enough ETL code to keep up with the growing number of data silos. And it's simply put, analytics in isolation doesn't scale. It gets brittle, you get different definitions across departments. It's not what we want. So the question is, how do we create a data platform that can serve the entire organization and doesn't take 1,000 data experts and a zillion lines of brittle ETL code to maintain? That is the question. Well, there is hope, this brings me to the third trend. All right? Data infrastructure has fundamentally evolved over the last couple of years. Any folks in the room who are data engineers or database experts will be able to point this out to you. Modern databases are bigger, faster, cheaper. Many of them even have analytics baked directly into them. And because of that, new approaches are now possible. ETL versus ELT, transform on query. And then finally, no matter how much explosion we're seeing in new SaaS applications and diverse sources of data, one thing remains true, and that is SQL is the gold standard. As long as you can write SQL, you can talk to most of these data sources. Right? So we're really seeing a trend where these cloud databases are changing the world, storing more data, querying it blazing fast, and doing it cheaply. By 2023, it's predicted that 75% of all databases will be in cloud. And we're seeing this in our own metrics. This is a chart which kind of illustrates the usage of different database types we see here at Looker. Now, of course, what you see is that Redshift is kind of our largest, but BigQuery and Snowflake are coming on strong with triple-digit growth, right, just over the last couple of years. Right? Now, what this is going to lead to, again, is a fundamental change in how data ops and data engineering works. This is a traditional data ops pipeline. It takes a lot of upfront work, writing ETL, working with your DBAs to make aggregate tables and smaller data marts, then taking all of that and connecting it into business dashboards and reports, and then delivering those finally to the end user. The problem that happens is, what happens if you need to change anything in this pipeline? What if your end user has a different question or needs a different metric or needs something redefined? Well, what happens is you have to do that whole process over again, which can take weeks. This is a very expensive operation. But in a world where databases are able to store as much data as you want and query it all at once and do transforms on the query, a lot of that stuff I just showed you goes out the window. And if your end user wants to ask a new question, instead of redoing your entire data engineering pipeline, you can change just the semantic description of what's in your data warehouse. And this is the strength of Looker. Looker allows you to have one place with all your business metrics defined using a proprietary language called LookML. And you can change your business definitions in that one place, and it will result in all of your metrics, all of your dashboards, all of your reports, and any applications linked to Looker to update immediately. All right. So, given all that, what is the future of business intelligence? There are three things. The first, the data-driven workforce. I want to reemphasize that everyone can make use of data, not just analysts. The second, and corresponding rise of SaaS applications, more and more data silos that need to be connected if you want to achieve the dream of BI. And then finally, more and more powerful cloud databases. These are the three trends. Looker was built from the ground up with those three trends in mind. And rather than re-explain that architecture, I want to tell you some stories about how people are using the Looker platform to achieve that dream. This is the first example. I can't name the name of the company, but this is one of the world's largest cable providers. And they have millions of set-top boxes around the world streaming event data into an S3 bucket in near real time. And they've put Looker on top of that. And what that's enabled them to do across this massive mountain of data is give every department within their organization a single version of the truth, a single version of their business metrics that can be shared between their executive team, their marketing team, their sales team, et cetera, at unprecedented scale. All right? But I want to talk about more than just traditional BI. All right? It's our belief, again, that BI is just one component, one thing that you can do with a data platform. I want to talk about applications and other uses of the platform. Because we believe that the future of BI, simply put, is not only going to be a BI tool. All right? So a couple more examples. This is a digital marketing application. And the thing I like about this, one, it's very powerful, brings together data from Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, and other ad providers all into one place that can be used by a digital marketer. But more importantly, it starts to look less and less like a traditional BI app. It's something that's purpose-built for the marketer and interactive in ways that marketers would expect. All right? The second, this is a screenshot of a tool that integrates Looker called OpsGenie. And for any of you folks who work on software engineering projects, you need to monitor them to make sure that your services are running continually. And if they're not, you may get alerted by a tool like OpsGenie. Well, OpsGenie integrates Looker into an interface that allows you to display to the end user time to detection, time to mitigation, and other statistics that are purposely tailored more toward operational use cases. All right? This is another really good example that I love. This is a company that is using Looker plus a machine learning model in order to optimize its digital marketing spend in near real time. It pulls in click-through data from Facebook and LinkedIn, and uses that data to adjust adjust the bids on particular keywords, all right? To see which ones are going to be more responsive and most cost efficient. All right? So using this approach, this company has managed to 4x paid installs, 3x their revenue without increasing their digital marketing spend. All right? Another great example, Global Payments. Global Payments is an extremely large-scale credit card processor, and what they needed was a simple-to-use interface that allowed their customers, and they've got 1 million customers, they wanted to give them a portal where they could search for credit card transactions. And they've got more than 6 billion transactions per year. And because these are individual transactions, they need to be available down to the row level. All right? So we're talking about a massive amount of data being served up to 1 million people in an interface that doesn't look like BI. It looks more like a search engine. All right? Namely, they've created an upsell product to their core HR analytics application. And here what you're seeing is inside the Namely interface, you can go into an analytics mode and get statistics about your organization. And these statistics are, the data behind these statistics is powered by Looker. All the models are served up by Looker. And what you're seeing here is visuals, bar charts and graphs using Looker's embedded technology. And they've used that, again, not to service traditional analysts, but to empower people in the HR space. Dayton Freight, another great example. Dayton Freight is a trucking company. And they use Looker in a very interesting way. It's really important for this company to know every morning how many truckers are going to be available so that they can then determine how many pallets they can get out the door. So they use Looker plus a feature of Looker called the Action Hub to notify truck drivers every morning. You know, send them a text message, are you going to be able to come in today? And that starts happening very early in the morning, 4 or 5 a.m. And by 9 a.m., they know who's going to be available, and that allows them to optimize for how much they can send out that day. So a very, very interesting use case. Slack, another great example. If you want to empower more people with data, then I believe fundamentally you've got to push that data into tools that people actually want to use every day. They're productivity tools that they use every single morning. And at Looker, we use Slack. And the primary way that I interface with Looker at work is using a bot, where I can ask, using natural language, questions about what data is connected to my Looker instance. And then finally, one more story from the Office of the Inspector General. This is a Looker application that's used by the Health and Human Services Office of the Inspector General in order to detect opioid abuse. So every morning, prescription data is fed into their data warehouse. A machine learning model runs over that data to flag for caseworkers situations where it looks like opioids are being overprescribed. All right? And those caseworkers use a very simple, very intuitive interface to monitor these updates and monitor these flags. And the result is fighting the opioid abuse crisis and saving lives. All right? So those are some examples of how Looker's platform can be used. I hope we really nailed the idea that this is much, much more powerful than traditional BI. And I just want to close with this quote from Gartner. In a 2018 global survey, Gartner asked this question: which tech area do you think is most important to helping your business differentiate and win? Analytics and BI was the #1 answer. And what that means, I think, is that even though BI is changing, the analyst is always going to be the hero, is always going to be at the center of the universe. But what does change, I believe, is that analysts have to find ways to turn everyone in the organization into a data-driven superhero as well. All right? So, just to wrap it all up, the future of BI is a return to a unified, trusted, governed architecture. It's the ability to it's the ability to have a platform that scales and flexes with the demands of the modern data ecosystem, the massive proliferation of SaaS applications and diversity of data. And it's also the ability to provide an experience that isn't constrained by traditional BI dashboards and reports, but can deliver data in a shape that is useful and intuitive to anyone in your organization. All right. With that, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keenan Rice. I'm our worldwide head of alliances and emerging markets here at Looker. I was also part of the team here that helped open up our Japanese operations. So First, I want to say thank you and how humbled I am to be here to see 0 customers to over 300 Japanese folks coming and learning more about Looker. So, arigatou gozaimasu. That's all I can say. So what I want to do is I want to quickly just introduce you all to our global Looker partner network, talk about our strategy of why we partner with certain partners, and how that's going to help you as customers or prospects when you adopt Looker to be more successful with Looker than you could be on your own. So that being said, first off, our strategy. Our strategy at Looker from an ecosystem perspective is to build the modern analytics and data ecosystem. So we're really looking at all those large technology companies, systems integrators, consulting partners that are leading the way in helping our customers redefine how they want to use data and analytics within their companies. So we really, first and foremost, the entire strategy here is to give our customers choice. And the way we want to give you choice is on 3 main aspects. The first aspect is to make sure that you work well with all the existing technologies that are going to help build a modern data analytics solution. So it'd be cloud data warehouses, on-premise data warehouses, hosting Looker in any cloud that you want it to be hosted in, machine learning, AI, workflows, et cetera. So first off is making sure that you can use what's existing and what you choose to build that solution. Second is to extend it, to build those integrations with third-party tools and have an ecosystem around that that helps your end users, your business users across any different department, do the workflows that they want to do with the data that you provide them as a BI team. And lastly, build those data experiences. So whether it's helping you use Looker blocks or Looker data applications like Nick had mentioned, out of the box, we're here to have the ecosystem contribute and build a thriving set of content for all those needs for you. To the end of the day, help provide you choice to build that modern analytics platform. So the way that we do that is we look at partners in 2 key categories: technology and system integrators. On the technology side, we want to make sure that you have those deep integrations and those workflows are documented and made possible so you can use that out of the box as quickly as possible. And secondly, the SIs and consulting ecosystem to make sure you can get this done as soon as possible, whether it's cloud modernization, data warehousing and data engineering, advanced Looker work, or even machine learning and data science. We want to make sure that the entire ecosystem is there to help you solve those problems. And we've taken the same approach and we brought it to the Japanese market. So we've invested since the start of Looker Japanese operations on building the partner ecosystem to make sure our Japanese customers have the same choice as you have globally with all these different partners. So we have our global, actually, let me give a little list here. So we have our global partners, AWS, Google Cloud. There, we're taking everything we've invested in globally, making sure it's available here in the Japanese market. And we've really started to then build out that local system integrator and consulting ecosystem to make sure those Looker experts are trained and available for you to adopt this new technology and take a lot of the learnings of the other countries that we're operating in to bring it to the Japanese market. So we have Globalpreneurs. Globalpreneurs is doing really good BI analytics consulting, have a deep Tableau expertise, so that's really going to help you if you're using Tableau and transition between the two and a difference. Exture, deep support on marketing and digital marketing analytics. DSK around data prep and helping do more work with the data science community. FPB is the first consulting company in Japan to also be supporting Looker and Fivetran, so modern ELT kind of environment. KSK, one of our first partners also in Japan, really focused on certain verticals, so deep vertical expertise and deep traditional BI expertise. BrainPad, Plaid, Treasure Data, et cetera, starting to use Looker locally in the market, not only in their platforms, but also building blocks and doing unique technology integrations. And lastly, NIC, which has a deep expertise on the Google Cloud and BI industries as well. So with that being said, oh, and one more too, also in class method, also being that exact same counterpart to the AWS ecosystem. So making sure we have deep SI coverage across two of our major cloud partners. So with that being said, we want to bring up one of our partners who's done a ton of investment locally in the Japanese market, Plaid. So let me introduce Kurahashi-san, CEO of Plaido.